So you want to become an opper? Well, I mean, you've probably came to the right place. I mean, I kind of know what I'm doing for the most part. I'd say I'm a fairly decent opper. I've been opping a lot since Counter-Strike. I've been playing Counter-Strike since I was 14, 13 probably, and I've been an opper pretty much the entire time. So I know a lot of the basic fundamentals for using a weapon like this in competitive shooters. So I'm going to try and teach to the best of my ability how to properly use this weapon so you don't end up looking like a fucking idiot in front of all your teammates and just getting bullied for the entire game, because trust me, I know how that feels. It doesn't feel good. It hurts my heart every time that someone insults me. I take it a little too personally, and then I just get heated for the rest of the game. So I'm going to teach you how to avoid situations like that, how to not get embarrassed while you're using the op, and how to look like you actually kind of know what the fuck you're doing, even if you don't. So starting now, you're going to learn how to master the lean green fucking creaming machine. So opping. So opping in this game, it's pretty good. I mean, it's alright. It's not the best thing ever. It's not the worst thing I've ever fucking seen in my life. But it's definitely nowhere near as good as it is in Counter-Strike. The op in this game shares a lot of similarities with the Counter-Strike variant, but at the same time, it is also very different. Things like this, which you see on the screen right now, crouch peeking, is really not that fucking good at all in this game. It actually is very bad, because most of the times you peek out and you just get fucking capped. Like, you're just dead. There's really not much you can do with the crouch peek in this game, which kind of sucks. So a lot of times, as you're seeing right now, you take an angle like I'm taking, you kind of just swing out like this. Don't walk like I just did there. That was me demonstrating not to do that. I actually recorded myself talking, and then I realized I was just gonna scratch that and fucking make something new. So never walk around the corner, just kind of walk out. If you know what I mean, don't shift walk and peek it. Just take a normal walking peek. That's the best way to actually take the angle in this. Because if you walk out slowly, you're gonna get domed. If you crouch, you're even more likely to fucking die. Because half the people in this game don't know how to aim, and they're aiming for your chest, so they're probably just gonna hit you in the head if you're crouching. Alright, so next I have, don't take one and done positions. Please, for the love of God, do not fucking take a one and done position. I'm gonna demonstrate what one of those looks like, but it's basically just a position where once you get a kill, the only option is to re-peek out and fucking die. Or maybe get another kill, but to any competent player, you're most likely just gonna get shot in the head because they're like, oh shit, dude, that guy's just sitting in the corner with an op. We can easily just kill him, just wait for him to peek again, because he's obviously gonna do it, because what else does he have to do? Just hide and wait for his team? You know he's not gonna do that shit. So basically, don't take a position like this that you're seeing on screen, please. Like, the only option you have is to go for another peek, most likely die. Maybe if you have like a Sage or an Omen or maybe even a Jet just to smoke you out of that position, it's just best not to take a position like this. The only situation where you should ever use an angle like this is if you have a backup plan. Do not put yourself in a position that you cannot escape from. I repeat, do not ever do that. So the best way to play on a bomb site would be to take a shot and then quickly reposition to another angle like you're seeing right here. If you are a stagnant opper, you're going to be so predictable that you are just going to die over and over again. You have to keep moving after you take your first shot. Take a shot here, move to the other side of the bomb site, get different cover, but don't repeat the same angle. If you are planning on repeating the same angle, make sure you're unpredictable about it. Don't just repeat over and over. Peek, wait a couple seconds, wait for them to be at a... Wait for an opportunity where you think you're going to surprise them before taking the next peek. If you're getting overwhelmed on sight, take your first shot. Don't re-peek it. Fall to a different angle, fall to a more passive angle, even try and get off the bomb site, because aggressive opping in this game does not work whatsoever. There are very little situations in which aggressive opping will work in this game, and trust me, it is not going to work very often. Alright, so next up I have close angles and far off angles. You do not want to take an angle like this where you are basically dick to ass with a fucking wall. Because if you do this, not only are they going to see you much faster than you're going to... Well, I wouldn't say they're going to see you much faster, but they will have a slight peeker's advantage. But you're just so close to a fucking wall, bro. Like, you do not need to be this close to a wall. Back up towards sight. I don't know, play an angle a little further back where you can actually get a zoomed out version of the fucking corridor you're looking down. You don't want to be tunnel vision down something, and you definitely don't want to double scope straight down a corridor where someone can literally just be sitting outside of your scope and you won't know. Take an off angle, which is what you're seeing right here, which is something that people don't really expect, because they're going to be clearing that back part of sight. Like 9 times out of 10, those are the first places they will look. They aren't going to look there. That's like one of the last things on their mind is to look at an off angle. Good players will expect off angles, but most players in general, it's not at the forefront of their mind. They're going to be looking towards back of sight. They're going to be looking in the general play spots, in the corners off to the left and right, with people playing with like pistols or shotguns. Depending on the economic situation, of course. But off angles are extremely strong in this game because a lot of the times people just don't expect them. And you can honestly get so many free kills by just taking up an off angle. You can create yourself more off angles with sage walls. I actually main sage a lot of the times, and I will create myself a off angle. I'll just waste my wall because what the fuck, I'm not going to use it on my teammates and help us win a round. I'm going to get myself a free kill. So you can actually create off angles with sage walls. If you have a sage in your team that is compliant with you and actually understands that it could actually help you win the round by boosting you up to a certain angle, then that's great. If you're an omen, you could teleport up somewhere, get an off angle, just somewhere that people will not expect. Their crosshair is just not trained on automatically. Those are the best places you can play with an op. There are obviously places on site that you can play. As you saw there, I was actually, when I take an off angle, I slowly, if I don't see anyone, I'll clear it out. I'll slowly peek around the corner, and then I'll go back to holding the off angle if I don't see anyone. And I'll wait for my chance to either rotate or fall to a different part of sight, depending on what's going on in that round. So here is mid doors, alt mid doors, whatever you want to call it. You don't want to stay stagnant watching these doors. You want to actually kind of be looking around and seeing if you can see different areas. Maybe someone's just sitting right outside of your line of sight. You want to actually be moving a little bit so you can actually see more into that open field, because people can just walk up, crouch up, and you won't even be able to see them. This cuts down a little bit on the dead zones that you won't be able to see, the blind spots. So just do that. For the most part, that's pretty much the fundamentals. There is a little more that I could cover. There's a little more I could go into depth about, but honestly, it is 7:33 a.m. I've been up for like 24 hours, you know, pumped up off G Fuel, just doing my fucking thing. So this is, I mean, it's still a good video, don't get me wrong, but there's just some things that I will forget about. It's just inevitable. There's so many things with the op, and there's so much that it takes to master this, that I'm just trying to give the groundworks that you can use to actually make yourself become a fucking god tier opper. Hopefully better than me, but probably not. I mean, let's be honest. So that's just the basic fundamentals of how you want to actually play with the op. You're going to want to take passive angles. You're not going to want to overextend much, and you're not going to want to put yourself in a position where you can easily die and get traded. You don't want to get traded as an opper. You bought a $4,500 gun. You want to try and get more than one kill with it. Don't be greedy, but don't die after your first kill. If at all possible, just try and put yourself in a position where you can get more than one kill. Like, put yourself in a position where you can get a kill, get to a different spot safely, and re-peek without them expecting your next move. Alright, so here we are on the practice range, and I'm just going to go over some fundamentals of the op and shooting it in general. So let me get this set up real quick. Okay, so bots are set up, so I'm going to go over the quick fundamentals of this. So I'm going to demonstrate all the peaks real quick that I was showing off earlier. So this is going to be the general shift peak, where you just shift in, you get the peak. I'm going to show the general walking peak, where you just literally walk in, wait for the red dot, and you take the pick. And then the crouch peak. The jump peak. Now a note with the jump peak is you gotta wait quite a long time for the red dot to come up. As you can see, it's a lot slower than the other ones. It's literally just a surprise factor that catches people off occasionally. It's really not that viable, but it is one way to peek. And the crouch peek. So those are your 5 peaks that you can use in games for the most part. In order of viableness, the number 1 viable peak is easily just the one where you pop out, peek like that. Or you can walk out and scope and peek, but that one's a bit harder to actually replicate in games. So I guess there is 6 ways to peek. I personally use this peek a lot because I like to just shoulder stuff and see them. So I'll shoulder something out, I'll look for the enemy, and then I'll take the peek, instead of, that's when I'm like trying to aggressively op. Say we're trying to retake a site, and that's one way you can actually do it. Or if you take your first pick and you want to repeat from the angle, you can always just shoulder it out. Might get the pick that way, as opposed to just walking out. So those are the main peaks you can use. So in order of viableness, I'd say the walk peak is almost definitely the most viable, where you just walk right out and you stop. And second, I'd probably say the shoulder peak is the next best. If I can actually hit a shot, of course. Crouch peek is pretty fucking ass in this game. I'm just gonna come out and say it. It's not that good at all. It just gives too much leeway for them to actually just straight up cap you. Like, there's not much you can do when you're crouch peeking. It's really not that good in this game. So those two peaks are pretty fucking solid for the most part. So now I'm going to go over the general, so the things you need to know, obviously. The red dot signals you can go for the shot. Obviously, if you're moving, the red dot's not going to be there at all. And just make sure, I know this should be obvious, but the op is a one-shot body shot. Don't be aiming for the head. You don't need to do that at all. You're not using the marshal, it's the op. So that's pretty much the basics of the op. I could go over more advanced stuff, but for now, I'm just going to lean on what I just said. Everything I just went over is pretty much the foundation for what you need to know to be an opper in this game. It's not currently really that meta, but I use it personally, and it actually wins me a lot of games by doing so, because not a lot of people know how to play against an opper in this game, and a lot of people don't expect an op in this game, because it's just not something that people really use all that much. I mean, obviously, you will run into players that fucking love the op like me, and you will run into players that obviously know how to fucking shut you down. Like, I've run into players that just shut me down pretty easily, but it's knowing when to take your peaks, knowing when to take your fights, knowing not to overextend and not to get yourself killed for absolutely no reason. Don't go for the clip, you don't need it. So some drills. Actually, before I get into the drills, I just want to point out that you can adjust your scope sensitivity like you can in Counter-Strike. I personally hate a 1-to-1 ratio with scope. It just feels way too fast. That might be because I play on a pretty fast sensitivity. 0.68 at 800's decently fast. So that's probably one of the reasons, but I do not like a 1-to-1 ratio for scope to general aim sensitivity. So I adjusted mine. I believe mine, you can go into general and it's scope sensitivity multiplier. I put that at 0.654 because in Counter-Strike I play at 0.65, so I just played around with it till whatever felt right. So with the op, the only real training that you want to do to actually get better with this thing is just peak training, where you're just peeking out and getting kills. And flick shot training. Those are like the two main trainings you want to do. I'd recommend to start off, I'd recommend just getting peak kills to actually learn how to peak angles properly, so you're not running into a game trying to use the op and just getting absolutely fucking destroyed consistently. But if you are a Counter-Strike player, it should be pretty easy for you to pick up, so you won't have to practice it all that much. Flicking does, like, the scope feels a little different in this game. So it takes a little while to get used to if you're a Counter-Strike player, but you will be able to pick it up way faster than people not used to using a weapon like this. Also, quick switching in this game is very good. So I just do a general 1-3 quick switch, where I take the shot, 3-1 back. You should really learn how to do that if you don't know how to do that. It's much better than doing this and then having your op out and trying to recover. So you can do this and you can actually move. When I'm on an angle, I like to do this and move away like that. You know, strafe to a different angle, try and reposition. So next up is flicking, where you just basically take micro flicks. You learn how to actually adjust and flick with the op. So that's flick shot. Basically, you're just learning how to flick. It's really that simple. I wouldn't look too much into it. Don't get discouraged if you can't hit flicks. I mean, it takes a little while to get them down. The muscle memory plays a massive part in learning how to play with the op. The muscle memory is one of the biggest things that you need to master with the op. It's a high risk, high reward weapon, and it has a very high skill ceiling. So, another thing you could probably do, I actually haven't tried it, is setting your bots to strafe. I actually don't really play around with this that much. So you set your bots to strafe, and you wait for them to strafe into your crosshair. That could actually be pretty beneficial, so I guess you could do that as another drill. I'd say do all of these drills until you feel a little comfortable, and if you need to keep coming back to train it, just keep doing it. Personally, when I was opping, I spent about 30 to 45 minutes a day learning how to actually hit my shots. So I would go in and I would practice for about 30 to 45 minutes hitting shots and working on my reflexes. This was obviously in Counter-Strike. I don't really practice the op in this because a lot of the skill just transferred over pretty fast. But I'd say if you're just starting out, I'd get about 200 kills using this method where you're just peeking around the corner and getting the shot off. And about 200 kills flick shotting. Because flicking is almost as important as, you know, just general peeking. It's not as important, but it's gonna save your ass a lot. Knowing how to hit those flicks and actually having the muscle memory to do so is going to save you so many times. It saves me every game at least 5 or 6 times. And with the last one, strafe shooting, now that I actually know this is something you can do with the bots, I actually didn't know you could set them to strafe. This is actually a very good way to practice when you're watching an angle for them to peek into your crosshair and you can actually take the shot. It'll help you improve your reflexes and it'll help you know what it looks like when you're actually trying to go for a shot on an angle. But that's about it. That's pretty much the basics of learning how to become an opper in Valorant. If you have any questions, just go ahead and leave them in the comments if I even get more than 5 views on this fucking video, because I know I probably won't. But that's about it. More to come. I'm going over crosshair placement next. That's going to be a little more in-depth than this. This wasn't really that in-depth, but for the most part, that's really all I could think about teaching. There's a lot to know about the op, and there's a lot of things I can't really put into words, since a lot of it does just come with muscle memory and time.